In this video, we are going to see 8 amazing chess traps in the King's Gambit that you can use to trick your opponents and win more games easily. So let's move on to our first trap. After e4, e5, f4, he goes e takes f4, then you play bishop c4. Queen to h4 check is the most common move. Then you play king f1, and after bishop c5, threatening mate in 1, you play d4. He goes bishop b6, then you play knight f3, hitting this queen. He goes queen g4, then you play bishop takes f7 check. If he goes king takes f7, then knight to e5 is a royal fork. Therefore, he is going to play king to e7. Then you can play h3, he goes queen g3. Then you play knight c3, and after king takes f7, you play knight e2, attacking this queen. He goes queen g6. Then you can play knight to e5, forking the king and the queen, and you can take this queen and you are completely winning in just 12 moves. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, f4, e takes f4, you play knight f3. g5 is the strongest move for black here. Then you play bishop c4, and after h6, creating this strong pawn chain, you can play this amazing h4. He goes f6, solidifying this pawn chain. Then you can play this amazing knight to e5, sacrificing this knight and threatening a fork on f7. So he is forced to take, but then you can play this amazing queen to h5 check. He goes king to e7, then you play queen to f7 check, and after king to d6, you play queen to d5 check, king e7, then you can play queen takes e5, checkmate. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, f4, in this position, more than a million players have gone f6. But you can punish this move by first playing f takes e5, and after f takes e5, you play queen to h5 check, forking the king and this pawn. And after g6, you can take this pawn, and after queen blocks, you can take the rook. But it's not just over. Black can also play queen takes e4 check. You block with the bishop, and after queen takes g2, you play bishop to f3, defending this rook. Now the queen is forced to move away. Then you can take his knight and you are completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, f4, e takes f4, you played knight f3, he goes g5, then you play h4, and after f6, defending this pawn, you played knight takes g5, sacrificing this knight. Now if he tries to play h6, then you can play queen h5 check, and after king e7, there's queen f7 check, and it's going to be a mate in a few moves. Therefore, he is forced to take, but then you have queen to h5 check, and after king e7, there's queen takes g5 check. Now if he tries to play knight f6, then you can play e5, and it's over for black in just few moves. So he will try to play king e8, but then there's queen to h5 check, and after king e7, you play queen e5 check. He goes king f7, then you bring in the bishop with bishop c4 check. He goes d5, then you play bishop takes d5, and after king g6, you play h5 check. He goes king h6, then there's queen takes h4 check, and after queen g5, you play queen takes f8 check, and after queen g7, only move d4 is a discovered check, checkmate. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, f4, he goes bishop c5. This is the classical variation. Then you just play knight f3. He goes d6, defending that pawn. Then you play c3, threatening to play d4. He goes queen e7, putting pressure on this e4 pawn. But you just play d4, and after e takes d4, c takes d4, queen takes e4 is the most common move. But here you have this amazing king to f2. And now, no matter what black does, he is completely lost. Bishop to b6 is the most common move, maintaining the spin. Then you have this amazing bishop to b5 check. If he tries to play something like c6 or knight to c6, then there's rook to e1 and you win the queen. Therefore, he will try to play king d8, but then there's this amazing rook e1. Now he can't do anything, so let's say he plays queen f5, but then rook to e8 is a checkmate. And before moving on to our next trap, if you are enjoying these chess traps, then don't forget to give this video a like. It really encourages me to make more videos like these. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of these videos. After e4, e5, f4, he goes e takes f4, then you play knight f3, and after g5, threatening to play g4, you just play h4. And after g4, attacking this knight, you play knight e5, counter attacking the pawn. So he goes knight f6, then you play knight takes g4, and after knight takes e4, you play d3, attacking the knight. Knight g3 seems like a natural response, but you play bishop takes f4, sacrificing this rook. And here he goes queen e7, with the idea of if you block with the queen, then he's going to take with the knight. Therefore, you will play bishop e2, and after knight takes rook, which is the most common move, you have bishop g5, attacking the queen. And here queen e6 is the most common move. Then you play knight to f6 check, and after king d8, you have knight d5 discovered check, f6. Then you can take this pawn with the bishop, and after bishop e7, you can take this bishop, and after king e8, this knight takes c7, forking the king and the queen. And then you can take this queen, and you are just completely winning. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, f4, here black also have the option of playing f5. And here you can play e takes f5, and after e takes f4, you can play queen to h5 check. He goes g6, then you can take this pawn, and after knight f6, attacking this queen, you just play g7, discovered check from the queen. And after knight takes, you can take his rook and promote to a queen and your upper rook. Let's move on to our next trap. After e4, e5, f4, he goes e takes f4, then you play bishop c4, and here he goes bishop c5. Then you can play this amazing bishop takes f7 check, and after king takes, you have queen to h5 check, forking this king and this bishop. And after g6, you can take this bishop, and after queen h4 check, you will move your king away, develop your knight, and continue the game. And this position is better for white. Well, this is not the end. Here are some more amazing chess traps like these. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any of these videos like these.